Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Figuratively Feasting. My name is James Gopp. I'm here with my co-host, Mr. Simeon Mordecai Bittman.
Hello.
We are sipping on some delicious Hennessy Pure White, something never had before. It's quite delicious, blonde. It's a little bit of a painkiller because today's podcast is going to be a little about the troubles, the trials, the pains that we all go through as cooks, chefs, entrepreneurs. We're talking about mental health and in this glorious industry of the hospitality that we're embedded in, and where we are in a world today with COVID, how we got here as cooks, and maybe some personal stories along the way to kind of share what's happening. So, good evening, Simeon. How are you?
I'm well, sir. Thank you very much.
Yes, thanks for coming out.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's good to have you. It's
I think I look better than you tonight.
You
For
might.
once.
You
This is
might.
amazing.
A tie. I wasn't expecting it. You know, we actually, truth be told, we took a few weeks off for actually our own mental health because we were going really fast. There was a lot going on. As strange as that sounds, because everything is slowed down so much. But I
Yeah.
think it's also the stepping up of trying to figure out, like a bunch of different wheels turning, trying to figure out what to do to make things work, trying new things, taking opportunities as they arise, and doing it on a very, very limited staff. And tonight I can tell you that I'm coming to you really as an exhausted business owner, as I think a lot of you folks are, whether it's business owners, managers, what have you. I mean, it's a skeleton type of crew with a lot of work that needs to get done and trying to make sense of this crazy world that we're in. I mean, right now we're talking about, before we came on the camera tonight, looking at the winter. Winter months are coming. It's cold. It's very cold.
People are going to start going inside.
Yeah, absolutely. And what does that look like? I'm starting to see some of the regulations, they're loosening up on those. Is that the right thing? I don't know. Is it safe? I mean, I don't know if I want to go into indoor situation like that with a bunch of other people. And I mean, if we're to believe what we're told about this pandemic, this virus, that it loves, it doesn't like hot weather. So now we're starting to get into the cold weather. And you had just informed me, I mean, because I live underneath a rock, they're starting to see some shutdowns in New York now. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. And that could continue to happen. It could accelerate if we all go inside and any cases start happening in restaurants from going inside. So it's not looking too optimistic at this very moment in restaurant world anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means for long term. I think everybody's wondering what that means, and it ranges from like people thinking that the restaurant business is never, ever, ever going to be the same and that everything's going to completely change to, oh yeah, like a vaccine's going to get developed in January and we're pretty much going to go back to business as usual.
Yeah.
So who really knows? We're how many months in? I don't even know.
Right.
And predicting a resurgence.
Yeah.
So mental health got to be something that is being challenged right now.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, even when people were allowed to have outdoor seating, that was crazy as it was.
Yeah.
I don't know. So it's something definitely. I really don't know. I mean, there's really no answers. You want to be cautiously optimistic about stuff.
Yeah.
But what does it look like? How do restaurants? What is it like? How do they? I mean, I guess maybe looking into more takeout. We were talking about this too. I mean, in this area, it's kind of crazy growing up. I mean, not that we're a huge metropolitan area here in Great Barrington at all, but there's very limited takeout, and a lot of people have started doing more takeout since this whole thing started, and I think that's great. But again, I think the reason we all go out is to have a sense of being taken care of. Sometimes you just want to unwind, have a glass of wine, talk to your friends, have somebody come and pour wine, cook the food for you.
Yeah.
Obviously, I mean, as easy as all these, takeaway food situations are, like Hello Fresh or Blue Apron or whatever.
Yeah.
You still got to put the work in. As easy as it is, you still have to do it, and you still got to do the dishes.
Yeah, totally. My own instinct, and I'm happy to be called on this, says that it is that desire to be taken care of, to eat out, to be in an environment where there's at least some other folks 6 feet away, but other folks there, to order some food, to experience the flavors of food from somebody else's heart, from somebody else's mind.
Sure.
That whole feeling that we've grown up with since we were kids, that was so special to go out.
Yeah.
I think that desire is gonna, it's going to supersede our fears. I think we're gonna be biased towards wanting that so much that we're gonna go inside when it's time to go inside, at the risk. I also think, though, that restaurants are gonna be prepared for going inside. I think that it's gonna be thought through. It's gonna have to be, because these restaurants are gonna be watched. And if there's anything amiss, they'll either get shut down, closed, or whatever.
Yeah.
Or patrons themselves are going to demonize these places that are not following every tiny little protocol so
Right.
that they feel comfortable.
Right. My fear is that people start opening up, they get a little lax. Because, if you're doing everything you're supposed to be doing and nothing's happening, I think we all know this, especially just as employees. Like, I remember starting off doing dishes or whatever as like a young punk.
Yeah.
And, not doing everything I was supposed to do. I mean, I talked to Steve down at the Prairie Whale. He was telling me way back in the day. Did you ever meet him, Steve Browning?
No.
Really nice guy. Like, super nice dude. Really like him a lot. He was telling me back in his days as a dishwasher, he just had the hand sprayer, right? And like that was his version of clean. He just was like going to hose stuff off and then considered that was it. And the chef came in, he's like, what the F are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing? So speaking to, you have maybe some employee there who doesn't really understand stuff. It lets stuff start to slide. They're supposed to be sanitizing everything.
Yeah, man.
And they're not.
It's a really good point.
Then all of a sudden
'Cause-
stuff starts to, and it doesn't take a lot either, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you have one outbreak in one restaurant one night. You could have 15 people infected.
Yeah.
Times that by 3 restaurants in a small town, now you're looking at a real serious problem.
Yeah, it's terrifying, dude. It's definitely terrifying. I personally am not going to be going out anytime soon. I went out this past weekend for the first time since March. I
Oh?
went to a place.
Where'd you go?
And we sat outside. I went to the new pizza place in Lenox, Bohema.
Oh. Huh. Yeah. You were telling me about that. I heard that they were going to be opening up.
Outside, it was fine. There weren't a lot of people eating, so we
Whereabouts?
basically
I'm sorry to
had the
interrupt.
whole
Whereabouts
patio.
location-wise? Where's the real estate area?
Right next to the Mobile on the corner of Franklin Street and
Is it
Main
by
Street there.
Prime, where Prime used to be, or is?
No, it's next to Frankie's,
Oh, okay. Okay.
which
yeah.
is on the main street there.
Yeah. Okay.
It used to be a grocery store forever since I was a kid.
Huh.
It was sort of like a package store.
Oh, really? Interesting. Okay. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Totally renovated, freaking beautiful.
Huh.
And a whole really awesome space in the back, a barn, and like bocce ball and stuff.
Really?
It's like open barn for even more seating, like a whole other building.
That's-
all rigged up with Wi-Fi, turntable in there.
What a ballsy thing to open a new business
Seriously.
in the middle of a pandemic. I mean, that's.
And
I
they're
don't
not
know.
the only ones. Like I heard some other places too. Just people going for it. Anyway,
Interesting.
which is also just another feeling of like, I think there's still activity happening.
Right.
We'll see what happens. But that place was slammed by the time we left.
Wow.
Takeout, like they were running out stacks of pizzas.
Wow. How was the pizza?
And there were people, it was delicious.
Really?
Honestly, man, I haven't had a pizza like that around here.
Really?
Like
Did you get a look at the oven? Is it like just like
Really?
a stack type of oven, or is it a wood-fired oven?
wood-fired, beautiful oven.
Come on, really?
Yeah.
Really?
It says Bohema on the front.
So like probably had
crafted
it.
copper like outside, you know.
But
It was like nice.
So it's built indoors. Wow.
The crust was like fluffy, like crunchy, but like a pillow on the inside.
Wow.
And the crust was like thin,
Wow. Well,
fresh mozz, good ingredients, good pizzas, man.
yeah. And what are they trying to do? Are they trying to do like a bunch of different, toppings and
Freaking
stuff?
two chefs, man, and talking about restaurants. This is it. We're supposed to be talking about mental health. We're gonna
Well,
be talking about this new place.
Pizza is a feel-good food. It's good for the brain.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
Yeah. So are they trying to do a ton of different toppings and things, or what?
I don't recall seeing a like build your own. To be honest with you.
No, I mean like
they had
so.
some custom pizzas.
Okay, that was
that
my
were
question.
appetizing, but then they still had like the classic margarita.
Yeah.
They had a puttanesca that was freaking good.
Yeah.
Like really good anchovies.
Yeah.
It was really good. They had like a mushroom with truffle on it.
Really? Damn.
It was freaking good. And then they just had like straight up cheese pizza. That's what the kids got.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Even those were just good.
Well, that's great. So yeah, I'll have to definitely check that out then. Mm-hmm. That's really great. That's exciting.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's one of those kinds of things like, you can always, I don't know. I don't necessarily know if you need more pizza, but like good pizza.
Good pizza.
Good pizza is really good.
Totally.
And people will come for that.
Yeah.
So.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And it was hopping.
Yeah, that's great. Good for them. And may it continue to be, because I can't even imagine what that must be like. I mean, we kind of touched upon this, I think, a few podcasts ago. I know of a former client that was renovating, this huge restaurant. And you were talking about how you had reached out to a former employee and said he hadn't stopped working. Now, I don't know if that place had been open this entire time. I was under the assumption that it was going through a full renovation and they were going to expand, like reopen, but maybe he's either working there or they have different locations too. So
that's a good question. I don't know.
But anyhow, it's, I can't imagine. Crazy. So.
Yeah. It's just it's such a weird time. Yeah, there are a lot of closures.
A lot of closures.
Restaurants are closing.
I wonder why that
make
is.
It. In the Berkshires, there aren't very many that haven't made it of the restaurants that are notable. I think everybody's still here.
Yeah, I don't know. So this new restaurant opened up, Marjoram and Rue.
Yeah.
Up in the top of Railroad Street. But I think they took over the former space that H.R. Zeppelin was in, the chocolate place. I'm not sure if they're still there or if they maybe relocated.
Or if it's Martin's, honestly.
Martin's is, that whole block after that fire, it all got reworked.
Right.
And my recollection there, that's where H.R. Zeppelin was, in the old Martin's space.
Oh.
So I don't know. But based off the pictures that I saw, it looks like they moved into that space. And I don't know if H.R. Zeppelin was still there or whatever, because right next to them is Mooncloud.
Right.
And then next to them, I think, is like, oh, Christ, I can't remember. It's like this cool, funky clothing shop.
Yeah. Right.
So there's a lot of cool things happening on that end of the street.
Mooncloud, I think, made it.
No, they're definitely. So they've totally gone into like barbecue.
Oh, really?
There's amazing, like huge smoker out behind the property, like right by the train tracks. And Billy,
awesome.
Do you know Billy? Billy
Yeah.
Paul? But Billy's just been rocking that. So that's really cool, because I would imagine a place like that, cocktail bar, I don't even know how they were doing it to begin with. Like, they had some charcuterie and smaller things. You and I went there. We indulged in some of their, their offerings. Delicious.
Yeah.
But
amazing.
Yeah,
cocktail.
it's cool that they've been doing that whole barbecue situation, because that totally expands their offerings. And I haven't been there, but again, also it's because I'm a little bit weary about that whole situation, because even people are supposed to be, they've done a really great job at the back of Railroad Street. Have you been? Or it's kind of like the parking lot back by the Triplex in Great Barrington. Have you been back there? So they did a really nice job of kind of taking all those parking spots, putting in seating out there. So you have like La Fiesta, which is there, and then this place called Steam. Have you been to Steam?
I've been to Steam.
The point is, what I was saying is I'm still a little skeptical about going out, because the rules state. You come in, you got your masks on, you sit down, you take your masks off.
Yeah.
I see people up walking around without masks on.
Yeah.
And that's a little odd. When we do these events, we just did an event this past weekend, and everyone was quarantined and COVID tested, because the two brides were, one was a doctor. but made sure that everybody got COVID tested beforehand.
Yeah, right.
And it's a small group of people and whatever else, so they know everybody.
Yeah, that's weird, man. That people are not doing the mask thing, but
I just don't even know. It's one of those kinds of things. I wonder if it's. I don't even necessarily know if it's intentional. I almost wonder if it's like muscle memory.
just like not thinking.
Yeah, they just had a few drinks and they go to get up and they're feeling good.
But
they're
then that's
talking
why
to
a
their
server,
friends.
somebody needs to be right there to be like, excuse me, sir, can you please make sure you've got your mask on when you're standing up?
That's also an interesting thing, as I mentioned to you earlier, is like I'm going into these stores and it's driving me friggin' nuts, dude. Like I don't like wearing the mask, but I'm doing it because I'm going to be in a store for 15 minutes max, right? And it's for the safety of everyone else and myself, right? But it's like, I've gone into several locations and I've actually questioned the employees about the stuff. There's a gas station right down the road from here, a big gas station, and you go in there and there's people just walking around flagrantly, not wearing masks. And it's like, I said to them, it's all on the signs, all indoors. You used to be wearing a mask during this whole thing. And they're not allowed to say anything to people, or they can come up and offer them a mask. And if they deny it, whether it's health reasons or just because they don't want to wear one, they're not allowed to push the issue. Right. Now, I've been in some gas stations where I see people, they come and say, oh, excuse me, sir, you need a mask to be in here. Yeah. And they turn around. Mm-hmm. So, it's, I don't understand. I guess they say it's out of to protect their employees, I guess, from somebody going off on them. But if we're going to do it, we got to do it and just be done with it. I mean, as we talk about now, the president of the United States has COVID, and then how that whole spreads. It's like, I was listening to a Stephen Colbert episode of one of his like the Late Show, I guess, and it's of national security importance that the president keeps himself safe, because if he gets it somehow, then he's involved with everyone else, the vice president, all these people together. All of a sudden, before you know it, the entire government is completely screwed. Now, whether you believe that it's a mild cold or whatever, people don't perform to the way they should be when they're sick. If you just have the common flu, I don't make good decisions when I'm sick. Yeah. No one does. So even if you just chalk it up to that. Yeah. I mean, we're talking about a national crisis here, so it's incredibly frustrating. But then also honestly, to be completely honest, going back to mental health, like for me, when I go into these areas, I don't condone or really promote this behavior, but I ended up confronting someone the other day in a local store. I saw them in the aisle and I said, "Hey bro, where's your mask?" And he's like, "Why don't you mind your own business?" And I was like, because you're putting everyone in danger by not wearing this mask right now. You're being selfish. And it just, anyways, the back and forth, and I ended up walking away from the guy. But it put me in a tone. And then the next store I went into, because I was getting chicken food, the next store I went into, every person I saw not going down the right aisle, it was like I was having an anxiety attack. It's like, get me out of here, because I just got, we're talking about grown adults here, that, you don't want to be a sheep or whatever, but it's just like, if you go to the store and there's the stuff that's easy, dude, just follow the arrows. Just follow the arrows, even if you don't believe it. Yeah. Just, for Christ's sakes, why rebel on something that stupid or not pay attention? Right.
Yeah. So no, I get it, man. It's tough.
And then it just sets me off, and then I'm just like a jerk to anyone around me.
Because go into chef mode.
Yeah, it's
like seeing red.
Yeah, and it's not okay, But I guess I don't know. You say going into chef mode, like I don't know if that's because it's sort of culture that we are built in as chefs. As I think there's a lot of people kind of see that sort of chef life as like a badge of honor, to be a prick, to have ultimate control over everything, and to have to chew people out in front of everyone else just to run them down. If we take a look way back, and like the kitchen brigade system. Here we go. Now we're getting back on track. So, if you take a look way back on that, it's such an interesting career path for anyone to want to get into.
Like imagine back then, dude. I remember it must have been middle school or something. I don't know how I got this piece of information in class, but I remember hearing about cook life in serving kings and stuff, and that cooks would go literally crazy from carbon monoxide poisoning being down in these basements
Yeah.
with like sucking in coal and smoke and basically poisoning themselves until they were going insane because there was no ventilation or anything.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's like, that's who would decide to do that?
Yeah.
I think a lot of them were servants. They were like forced
Yeah,
to do
they
that.
didn't have a choice. But it's really funny because now, flash forward to where we are now, and a big part, I mean, I can only speak on my own behalf, but, you know, the way the Food Network, Food and Wine magazine, lots of Martha Stewart, lots of places have put this position of being a chef on a pedestal.
Yeah.
And if you take a look at really the bare bones of where it started, its beginnings and also the lifestyle, I mean, it's interesting. It's sort of like this thing. I just had this moment of realizing, like when we did this event Into the Deep in this cave, all the crazy stuff we tried to do. We didn't have to try to do all that stuff on site.
Yeah.
We could have done a lot of stuff ahead of time, but I was realizing I was going down this weird path. It was almost like a challenge. And there's a weird sense of pride that comes from that, to be able to keep stacking up almost this impossible pile of tasks and then to be able to conquer it, because once you start doing that, you're like, oh my God, I'm unstoppable. We're unstoppable, you know? So then I think that sort of ties into the chef lifestyle. It's such, I mean, on a piece of paper, someone that doesn't understand it and somebody doesn't deeply care about nourishing other people, it's a really odd description that would seem unappealing to many, many people. You know, not spending time with your friends and family during holidays
Being
or even
in
regular
tiny-
hours.
Yeah, right. And then being in enclosed spaces with extreme heat and fire
Yeah.
and knives, like danger.
Yeah, for
Danger
very long
everywhere.
hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't even imagine. I mean, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, that's what it had to have been. People must have been, in like indentured servitude or whatever.
And it's funny, you know, too, you look back in history at these images of kitchens during those times, and it'll show women who are dressed in like big dresses with an apron and like a headpiece,
Yeah.
you know, and the whole kitchen will be these women working, and you show they have the reenactments, you know, you see those too, and they all are like smiling, and it looks like so amazing, and they're doing their thing. I have a feeling it wasn't a very pleasant experience most days in those kitchens, man.
Yeah.
Like men or women or anybody in there, I feel like it was rugged and the hours were long and you're sucking up smoke and it was dangerous.
Yeah, but so to that fact, I wonder, because based off where we are now in a lot of kitchens, I mean, when I was in culinary school, it was kind of ridiculous. We were making puff pastry one day, and I remember, you know, we're sitting in this like beautiful kitchen in Chelsea, you know, Manhattan.
Yeah.
And beautiful cityscape views and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And air conditioning. Like, does that not setting you up for disappointment in your life?
Seriously, right.
So we were making puff pastry, and then for whatever reason that day, the air conditioning was out. And I had this guy, I think he was hungover or something, I was working with. And, you know, as anybody that has ever made puff pastry knows, like from scratch, I'll tell you this right out of the gate, just buy it. Because, you know, they do, the folks that make it do a real good job.
I mean, do it once.
Yeah,
Make
do it once.
so that you understand what goes into it
For
and
sure.
how it's made and what a really good puff pastry, like what it takes to get a good puff.
Yeah, 100%. You should totally, you know, get it so you can appreciate it for sure. Be very thoughtful about that. But in the end, just buy it, because people do it a lot better and they've got great systems for it. But anyhow, this guy was going so slow. He was like just rolling it out, and because he was going so slow and it was so hot, I was watching
Oh,
the butter
no.
just squeeze out of the pastry. I'm like, dude, you got to move faster.
Yeah.
You got to move faster. Yeah, but it's a funny thing, you know, with that entire lifestyle, you know, and then how that became, you know, how we were talking about Escoffier kind of came in, Auguste Escoffier, kind of like, many people consider to be like the godfather of modern like French cuisine, you know, to kind of sort of established the kitchen brigade. And for those of you who don't know what the kitchen brigade is, it's, you know, when you go out to a restaurant, you're sitting down, you order something off a menu, you get a salad, or maybe you order fish and beef and all this other stuff, and everything has to come out. You're expecting with your dining companion to get your fish the same time they're getting their steak or whatever. But there's two different cooking times there, and each kitchen station has different, chef de parties, different areas that like different managers of their specific area, and they have to communicate all with each other so they're getting things out at the same time.
Yeah.
And as the order comes in, you usually have the chef or the chef de cuisine who reads the ticket offs, and everyone's lined up ready to go. Their system. It's basically like an assembly line.
Yeah.
And that's who we have to thank for that, as well as having proper ventilation in kitchens, proper lighting, proper safety types of things, uniforms.
Yeah.
A whole sense of pride in being a chef.
Overall, right. So mental health, developing a positive image of cooks, of ourselves as cooks in kitchens, taking pride in what we do. That's the way that I interpreted the story of Auguste Escoffier, that he, like the way I read about it or the way that chefs told me about it was like, he came in, the kitchens at that time in London and in France were notorious for having the outcasts of society working in kitchens, and primarily male, I guess, at that time. And he showed up and was like, all right, guys, I'm going to whip you guys into shape, and I'm not going to take any of your shit about it, and we're going to make you look good, we're going to organize you, and we're going to put out some awesome food, and you guys are going to freaking love what you do. You're going to love doing this. And I'm going to go to bat to change your image and how the public looks at you, and I'm going to make us be appreciated for what we do, you know? And so that was a moment that created positive look at ourselves, or at cooks were able to maybe change around what they thought about themselves. Maybe they thought they were just a bunch of outcasts and they were just, the lowest rung in society.
Right.
But suddenly they're treated with some respect by their chef. Their chef was willing to go down on the ship with them. It's like a pirate ship. And to make this awesome food and to have super high standards, uncompromising.
Right.
It's like really, really good for the industry.
I would say 100%. I mean, it's by developing the kitchen brigade system, you start to really see that, how important something as lowly that might be considered as lowly as the dishwasher or a porter would be considered. But without them, I mean, I think most of us in the cooking industry have worked a night with the dishwasher's not there. How fun is it to have to run back and forth in between plating to wash dishes? Us chefs, we love to dirty dishes, and it's, we're very good at it, so like, and then going down on somebody, they have to get something out of the basement or whatever. I mean, every single part, every single chain in the link, cog in the machine plays such an important piece. And imagine, so back in the early days too, before that happened, there was no menus. It was just whatever was on the menu, that's what you got if you came out. So that's when Escoffier was the one who designed all these like intricate, multi-course kind of interesting things, and then of course creating a system to make things efficient. Now we all do that in all different forms of business, not just the hospitality industry. It's all over the place. I mean, capitalism, that's what capitalism is at the core, bigger, cheaper, faster, but most importantly, cheaper, to figure out how to make it more efficient, make things run more efficiently, get products cheaper. Same thing with us and in restaurants. You want to decrease the steps. Really, I mean, if you're a chef at a station, you really shouldn't have to step anywhere. You're almost like it's almost like you don't even have legs. You're like on a swivel. Everything should be right here, right around you. And if it's not, well, you better damn work on it so that it is, because when you're getting pounded and that ticket machine's going off, it's very easy to start to see white. And, hello, is anyone home? Hello? Yes or no?
Man.
So it's...
That could crack a person.
Yeah, but like being in the weeds, I mean, thinking about like that, what that must have been. And if we didn't have a kitchen brigade system, I mean, I remember one night when I was working at a local restaurant, it got staffed 2 people that night because typically it was a dead night. Nobody came in that night. Oh, so it was a dude working.
To tell you my story.
Oh, I can't wait either.
Yeah.
Go
though.
So, one dude is typically working the cold side, has no experience working, entremet or meats or anything like that.
Yeah.
all of a sudden we just get ticket after ticket after ticket. We ended up doing like, I think it was 110 that night, just two of us. And it's a small kitchen. It was
Yeah.
at Allium in Great Barrington, and just running back and forth. And it was insane. But I will say there's nothing more, that's not true, because I think a lot of the stuff with Heirloom Fire is like being able to go through hell with all these people and rely on everyone, like I've said multiple times. That's a different form of family, bonding, brotherhood, sisterhood, family. But working in a restaurant, having the ability to work next to your fellow chef, and know when they're going to go up on a ticket without them saying, "All right, you're ready to go up on this salmon or ready to go up on this." You just know they put down that plate. You immediately register. That's a dish that's going with my pork.
Yeah.
So I whip around, start getting that going, get all the sits set up. They're doing their veg. Boom, they put it down. You're right behind them with the meat. They wipe it down. They garnish. Boom, into the window, and we're on the pass. And it's amazing. That's such an amazing
I love that
feeling
stuff.
when there's like that hum of the kitchen going, right? When you don't
best.
even communicate. You don't have to verbally communicate. There's just a palpable energy
Yeah.
that's just running through everything.
Yeah, man. Oh, there's this dude in my kitchen right now that it's funny. I'm not going to say, all I'm going to say is there's this dude in my kitchen right now, and there are these moments that I recognize tonight. There are these moments that we frequently have where we don't need to exchange words, and he's just watching everything I'm doing. He's like prep cook / dishwasher, but he's just watching me. And so he knows to be there. If I swing around and he can tell I'm like looking for the salt, and I locate it and I can see it and I see that it's empty, without any words, he'll go to the back room, get the box of salt, refill it, and like slide it onto the counter right where my cutting board is. So when I turn around, the salt's sitting there. And his back is to me again while he does dishes, Like those kind of moments are like, dude, that's why I'm doing this.
Yeah, right.
It's like that kind of connection to me feels, and maybe we're making it into more than what it is, man. I don't know. Maybe we're hopeless romantics, but to me, that feels like a camaraderie. That feels like a connection, like a brotherhood.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I love that. I mean that, and then I think when you're not in the food industry, and even Jordan Peterson. I don't know if you know him. He's this. I don't even know what you would classify him as. I guess maybe a philosopher or something. He's just a really smart dude. He's got a couple books he's written. He's got a podcast. He's really, really smart. But even this is the story. Actually, I shared a clip of a Jocko clip with you where he was talking about lunch bucket.
Yeah.
Remember that whole thing?
Yeah.
Excuse me. And then he talked about working in the food industry, and very, out of all the other careers he's worked, he's never felt that same sense of camaraderie that he did when he was, in the food industry.
Yeah.
There was something special about that.
Yeah.
And there's something special about, just getting through seemingly impossible tasks.
Yeah.
There's sometimes it doesn't take much. When you're on the line, it can just take one person kind of screwing up for everything to topple.
Yeah.
And then you're just basically spending the entire night trying to catch up.
Yeah.
And how maddening that can be.
Yeah.
Because people aren't taking their stuff seriously.
So funny. Well, so let me bring this back around, taking that, thinking about Escoffier, thinking about the story that I was kind of told is it's like these bunch of these rogues, like these renegades in society who are finding themselves in the kitchen working together. And folks having, I don't know what it was like back then. I know that now we like to say, or that we definitely know that a lot of folks with issues with mental health, anxiety, depression, and the full gamut of things find themselves in this business. And we find ourselves in situations with each other that are really trying and that are really intense and that probably are healing for us. They're probably good for us in a weird, screwed up way. To get into intense situations, to succeed, to come together, to have that wordless kind of flow, to have the camaraderie, to have somebody standing next to you that is just batshit crazy, just like you are.
Yeah.
I think it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting. I agree with that, actually. There's a lot of like, old school homeopathy that talked about like, if you had an eye infection, well, you would just pour something in your eye that would irritate it more. Like that was kind of like it, like if you got a burn, you'd put more stuff on there to like burn yourself because that was the idea. But I think in this case, it might be somewhat, I think, to a degree of truth, because there have been so many stressful situations that I found myself in with food-related stuff. And I think you're right. I mean, those same people that are willing to dog it out with you, whether it's scrubbing, the back of the stainless steel wall behind the stove at 1:30 in the morning while listening to music cranking,
Yeah.
And the same people that are there, like, helping you come out of the weeds when you're in it or whatever, or just knowing that somebody that's on your team that is just as crazy as you, who never tells you no, and you're like, yeah, well, what do you think about doing this? When most people be like, that's ridiculous. That's no, I don't think it's a good idea. When you have someone's like, yeah, absolutely, let's do it, and let's do it, 10 times crazier than you thought.
Yeah.
That's magical. But then when you lose that, it's sort of like, I don't know. I think crazy begets crazy in a way. I think it helps each other. I think you need it. I think when you cross over a certain threshold, I think this hospitality industry also is conducive for crazy behavior. I think that it pushes you in certain ways, and other places that you wouldn't necessarily achieve that. And I think when it's almost like when you open this door, you can't close it. And I think you need to have a little bit of psychotic people around you so you're not alone. If that makes sense. I think if you're around too many straight-laced people who play things so safe because they haven't broken through that wall or opened that door, it can feel very lonely.
I've experienced that before. Like, there are folks who are in kitchens who need things to be like, okay, every day the delivery comes at this exact time, and then I'm going to handle that, and then I can move on to doing my salad prep, and then I move on to doing this, and then service starts at exactly this time, and no orders were going to come in early, and we're not going to, and then service is going to end at this time, and I'm going to make exactly 8 portions of salmon ready to go for my station and that. And like, it doesn't work out that way, and it's really hard for them to understand that.
Yeah, it almost never works out that way.
Yeah.
How can it ever?
Right.
I memean, especially when we're in an industry where, there are reservations, but anytime you're accepting walk-ins, you might get 10 walk-ins, you might get 50 walk-ins.
Yeah, and I think it's good, man. It's like I embrace those moments as challenges for me to be more flexible, because I think it's important to just be more flexible as things change. Life is unpredictable. Look at what's going on right now. Who knew that we were going to end up in this sort of weird, dark time?
Right.
With this strange virus just like spreading everywhere that is like, we sort of understand, well, we understand a lot more about than we did back in March, but like, we still don't totally fully grasp, and where our world is divided between people who think you should wear a mask and people who don't, basically.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. Yeah, we don't really understand it, but one thing that's pretty much unanimous across the board is to wear an effing mask. And people still won't do that for some weird sense of pride.
Yeah, even us right now.
Well,
no, we've got our distance, and I know you're safe. I've been tested recently. We're cool.
Yeah.
And we should say that often to everybody, just to reassure them. We've been saying that over and over. We're good.
Yeah.
We've worked together in environments where we needed to get tested, and that happened quite recently.
Yes.
I know what your day-to-day is like, and you're not going anywhere risky. Yeah. Neither am I, except to fucking Loves.
All the time. Yeah. Loves and some other, some rowdy Great Barrington place. It's like a Wild West out there. I got to be the sheriff. On, All the time, dude. So, I wouldn't dream of it.
If somebody's going to be silly, at least you've got your mask on. That's a huge part in keeping yourself safe.
Right. That's what I mean. Like, this weird place in the world is, though, even when we're told what we should be doing, people don't want to do it. It's just bizarre.
It is.
Not to beat that horse there to death, but I mean, like, I don't even know how we grow as a civilization when something is so basic.
It's just the ego, man. It's like so fragile. It's like if it feels attacked in any way, it's gonna lash out, even in a situation that's life or death.
But even it's so interesting. I can sort of touch on a few different aspects in my life, but I mean, we've talked about working in the line and how crazy things are. I mean, I think, dude, coming out of culinary school, I busted my hump
Yeah.
going there, as a lot of people do. I'm not looking for any special gold stickers or cookies or
As
whatever.
did I. Probably even too much. I became sort of nervous and anxious a lot of the time. You know,
Right.
chefs would be like, "Dude, like, you can chill. You don't
So
have to go like this nuts."
Yeah.
Right now."
Well, so okay. So you're saying you busted your butt. So then when you got into a real, not a CIA-based kitchen, but when you get into a real kitchen, that was not underneath all that sort of guidance and oversight. What was that like for you, having been
Dude,
like busted
I
your
rolled up
hump?
to my first kitchen with my checks on from school,
Yeah.
like my jacket. I freaking
Comey cap too, or no?
No, but I brought the scarf. I was gonna maybe put the scarf on, and you know where I went to?
Yeah.
Route 7 Grill, bro.
That was right out of school.
Yeah, and it was also during school too, and
Where
like
was that?
right
So,
towards the end.
Was I there at
No.
that time?
No, you weren't there. Chris was holding it down.
So this
It was like a transitional time, I think, for that place.
yeah. So I was. So I came in.
That
and-
was when I had the infamous quote.
yeah.
of,
But the black pepper.
Well, that is actually totally made that story up. I just went
What a
along with it
shame.
because I thought it was funny. But what I did say was of the salad, like I was on cold and fry, I think. I said this station is very bowl heavy.
Yeah.
There were a lot of bowls on that station because there were like 3 different sauces,
Yeah.
3 different salads, 3 different dressings.
Yeah.
The wings had a number of different sauces that the guests could select from, and so those each needed to have a bowl of their own.
Yeah. It was
Chris
like beautiful.
thought that was very funny
That's the first time I've
that
heard
I
of
said
it.
that.
Yeah.
He said that recently to me. He's like, you know, I recall you remember saying, I remember you saying, this station is very bowl heavy. Yeah, man, I was working also at a catering company in Ancramdale at that time, and I would do the same thing. I would show up in my checks and my chef jacket, and they were rocking like t-shirts and stuff. And during service, like plate up, when we were spreading out plates, there was like, if a plate clanged, I would be like, too loud. What are you guys doing?
Would they say that?
In
Would
addition-
they say it to you in school?
Yeah.
They would
School
yell at you?
and an internship in restaurant, like this restaurant that I worked at
Where
was one of the
did
best
you
ones.
work the?
It was at Blue Hill.
Oh.
At Stone Barns.
Oh yeah, that's right. You told me that story about what was there?
Like if a plate even touched.
Well, whatever. It's like at that point after that shushing, could you like hear a pin drop?
Oh
'Cause
yeah.
it must have been like so.
It
like
was-
when it happens,
I
like
thought it
nails
was
on a
beautiful.
chalkboard.
I mean, you know, I'm sort of like a mindful meditator kind of guy. I thought it was just amazing because it was just like drop into the present moment. I loved it so much. Unfortunately, at that time, and this is mental health stuff, my anxiety would kick in so hard when I was working somewhere like that. I
At
would be
Blue
like,
Hill.
oh my God, this place is the best of the best. I can't believe it. I'm freaking here. I can't believe I'm here. This is unbelievable. I better do good. I hope I don't mess anything up. I got to show them that I'm like a total monster. That, you know, like all this, like these voices going on in my head would pull me out. So I would like literally feel the moments when I was connected and I was like flowing. And I remember the special event chef there, he would just be like, yeah, like I could tell that he felt it and that he liked me. And so he would give me more to do. And then I would slip into the anxiety and I would like mess something up, or I would just lose the like dance with everybody else on the line while we were plating, you know, because it would like literally just, it would get in the way of my ability to dance and flow.
because
And
you'd be
like,
so jazzed.
I would be so, yeah, but I would be so scared of like messing up. Or just
So it's so interesting.
like,
You're just like you're
and
on
I'd be
this.
like, oh my
good
God, there's
path.
Dan Barber. Holy shit. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And then, you know, like,
Yeah.
it was just like
That's interesting.
freak myself out, like totally get freaked out.
See, I've always felt like when I was like in the zone, whether it was to do with sports or, you know, cooking, like it's like I remember like hitting some of my very first times, like hitting my stride where every single move I made was
Yeah.
absolutely efficient.
Dude.
And like you
Yes.
feel like you're plugged into an outlet.
That's where
and
I
you're
was
just
like-
like, dude, that was good. That was good. That was good. And it's not even like I'm okaying myself. I'm just it's like you tap into a different power.
Yeah.
And for me, like with respect to you, I never lost, like nothing could trip me up.
Yeah, man,
I don't
that's
think.
so cool because that's how I started too. Like the first many years that I was in there and I was doing it, that was like when that awoke in me. It awoke at the beginning.
Yeah.
It was like trial by fire and moments at restaurants, and like I was at Jacob's Pillow, and then before that I was in Amherst and I was just working the line at this Asian place, like these giant woks and stuff, and I jumped in and I was able to like think, and there was pressure and everything was coming out right, and I knew exactly how to like run the tickets, and I knew how to work with everybody on the line, and it was like, this is freaking great. I can do this. Like, this is amazing. Like, this is it, because I can unlock that flow, and it felt so good. That's why I thought like, I want to keep doing this, you know?
Yeah.
It was like, because I have the ability to stay cool, and I actually even come together even more in moments under pressure than I do in normal life. You know, I was like, this is freaking awesome.
Interesting.
And it continued that way at Jacob's Pillow. It was like, this is it. I can do the dance. And I saw that like chefs wanted to bring me on because I could do that. It was like I could roll into a situation, do a stage or whatever. When I got to Boston, I would go stage at places and I could keep that cool. And it was amazing. It was after a period of time that the anxiety started kicking in.
And what do you think caused that?
I think it was that I got exhausted. I got burnt out and I needed to rest. And my tendency when I get burnt out, when I start feeling that, I push harder and my brain turns off and I use the anxiety as fuel. And while the anxiety and the fuel can keep me going, I'm not thinking straight. I'm thinking in this anxious, compulsive way, to literally where I'll be so exhausted and so anxious and stressed that I'll be seeing double, like looking at tickets or looking at things, and I'll think that I'm seeing things that aren't actually there.
Jesus.
Like while I'm cooking and shit, like I'll think that I've added the garlic and that the garlic is burning in a pan, for example. And I'll be like, holy shit, the garlic is burning. And I'll start to like throw the pan out and start over again. And right before I throw it out, I'll look at the pan closely and be like, the garlic is fine, dude. Or like, you haven't even turned the fire on the range yet. Like your garlic can't possibly be burnt.
Wow.
Like really weird, like hallucination, anxiety, panic attacks. Weird stuff.
So like,
but I'm not saying that I've been experiencing that at all within the last like maybe couple of years, maybe 2 years. But I do feel it come on.
Yeah, when you're going really hard.
When I was going real hard.
Huh. That's what I wonder about this stuff. I mean, something I've always noticed was when you get in the weeds, I feel like the first time you get in there, it's the worst feeling in the world. And I remember this one guy, he was a pastry chef. I think you might know him. He did some time at the Route 7 Grill as well. He came on and he said that he wanted to switch his profession from pastry to savory, and he had invested so much of his time there. And I was like, dude, you don't want to do that. It's like your passion is this. I said, if you want, come on and work the line one night. So I threw him on the grill one night, and he was like, I'm calling to him, like, hey, where are you at with this? Where are you at with this? And he's looking at me, and he's just drenched and pale as a ghost. And I'm staring at him. I'm like, hello? And he's like, just kind of shake his head. I'm like, all right, bro. I'm sorry. I said, I'm sorry. I'm going to have you step off the line. So he went step off the line, and we got caught up, and we got the food out. And he was like, oh, my God, that's the most... you guys are going on and on and on about being amazing. It's like, no, dude, that's like, we're just doing this. You just got it over your head. Yeah. Same thing happened to me at one restaurant. I think I told you about this. Yeah, and it's like a legendary story.
Weren't really set up. But anyways,
yeah, no, I wasn't set up, and I also didn't know the menu, and I also didn't know that we were going to get absolutely pounded, because why would you throw somebody on the line? I can't, the only reason, like, as I think about it now in my perspective, it's like, oh, let's go see what this guy's made of. But why? Why would you do that? Like, for me, I would even this event we did this past weekend, someone was setting up the Chemex coffees. and he unfolded the filters. The filters were the Chemex, in case anybody hasn't used them. They're kind of funny. They're kind of a little bit weird. So I had to go through them, and I was like very just kind with him and explained to him about how to actually do it. And like there's a little sort of a T or like a nipple on the front of the Chemex and all that kind of stuff. Like because I don't want to see people go through that. And I think it's the thing. That's the idea is what you're in that weeded area. You don't want other people to experience that because it's not good for them, and it's certainly not good for you.
It's not successful.
No,
it
but I'll
create a successful outcome.
No, certainly not. But
in most cases,
going back to the discussion about being in the weeds, I got weeded a few times, and then I've got myself like never did I get myself into the same position again where I got into the weeds again. It's like almost like you hit a wall, you get through it, and then boom, boom, boom. But you go down. But I also can't help but wonder: is there some psychological damage that's being done there?
Trauma.
You're right. Is there some trauma that's being done? Is there some sort of scar tissue that's being built up in a way that there's something like you're talking about some of your flashbacks, but all like post-traumatic stress disorder in some ways?
I think there absolutely is, dude. I think that there's stuff to be processed, and I know exactly. I can recall. When I was in this state where I was exhausted and totally anxious, it was working a job at a university. This was 3 years ago now. And I had just gotten pounded for like 2 weeks straight. I was the catering chef there. And my department was just picking up events, more and more events, not saying no. And like taking them like 2 days out, 200 people, go. Like stuff like that. And I was so incredibly worn to the bone and was pushing so hard past exhaustion, needed to keep going for 16 days straight. On the 17th day, I had a day off. I was with my wife and my kids. We stopped on a street in Pittsfield, and I got dropped off so I could go get a haircut. I walked into the building to get my hair cut, and it was quiet in there. I had to find the office or the room where the hair cutting appointment was. So I was walking through this building, and it was so quiet. You know what I started hearing? Ticker tape, the ticket tape from this restaurant, like one of the first restaurants that I worked at in Boston. I heard it start going off, and I thought that I was like, is it ticket tape going off? Like, what is going on? And I got totally freaked out. I couldn't find the haircutting thing. I couldn't find the room because I was walking around and all I could hear was that. It was like finally I had a moment to unwind and deal with all the trauma from the past 2 weeks, and it triggered a previous trauma of being slammed on the line with tickets just like flowing. And honestly, I never crashed at that restaurant. There was one night that I did, and after that, the chef called me on it and was like, dude, and I freaking bawled my eyes out, and I was like, I'm so sorry, I'll never do that again. And I always performed, and I always came through, and I was even like, I loved it, but I was still traumatized by it. So the ticker tape, I had to text my wife and be like, come get me. I can't find the room. And I got in there, and I was like, hun, I have to go home. And I just closed myself in the room and just let it out. Wow. Wild stuff. I do think that a lot of those experiences we shouldn't compartmentalize them. We should look at them. There might even be a way that we can process. And here's a mental health tip right here. There's a way to healthfully process a slamming night at the end of a night that doesn't involve just jumping right into having drinks or jumping right into consuming substances. It's let's just take a moment. That was fucking crazy, and then think about it, flash back to it, sort of process it, understand it, at least just run it over in our heads and get to a place where we're outside of that trauma, expect that we're going to have some physiological response to it somewhere down the road. Get ready for that to happen.
Yeah. Well, I think that also with the ego part of it there, I think there is, because you go through so many tough services, you can start to think you're indestructible. And we're human.
Our subconscious could be, it could be called the subconscious, I don't know, but somewhere those traumatic experiences are getting like stacked up. And
Yeah.
will start breaking
Yeah,
without looking at them.
And I'm a huge fan of, the phrase, everything costs something. I was in a
Yeah.
long-term relationship
I
with
love
somebody.
when you say that.
Do you?
Yeah.
I mean, because it's so true.
It's so true, man.
I mean, like, because sometimes you think you're getting one over on something,
Yeah.
but you're not getting nothing over on nobody.
No, man.
Because there's something that's gonna pay. The piper always gets paid.
Yeah.
So I was in a long-term relationship with a woman for 5 years, and then like for the first time when I was young, I was like, oh my God, I love this woman. This is gonna be, you get to this point in life where maybe it's a little idealistic or whatever, but you get to a point in life where you're so infatuated and you love somebody so much, nobody else can turn your head. And like that was the stage I was in. I was like, this is I couldn't be any better than this.
Yeah.
I got this opportunity to be the chef at the Route 7 Grill. And I was pretty wise, I guess, at that age, because I had said, is this an opportunity that I should consider? Should we do this as partners, to the woman I was seeing?
Oh.
I said, it's going to be incredibly hard. I'm going to be working very long hours. We're going to be on opposite schedules. We considered everything. And in the end, it's very supportive of the opportunity that I was, going to have. Because I didn't really have anything else going at that point. As I've talked about before in other podcasts, I worked at this natural foods store. I graduated culinary school, and so I was ready to go, and I went and took the job. And I would say probably a month into it, our relationship drastically altered. You come home, and that's the idea. After working a crazy slamming service, you come home, you're wired. And I was like, I'm going to go right home. I'm going to come right home because, I got a busy day with the family tomorrow. She had 2 kids from another marriage. So came home, a little bit restless in bed, And then it was, hey, hon, can you go sleep on the couch? Or I'm going to have to, just because I have to get up early. And, she was a light sleeper. Well, okay. So, of course, that's what I am, like a fixer. That's, I guess, so like a piece about me is that I don't want to ever put anyone else in a difficult position. So I'm never going to ask somebody to get out of bed. So ultimately, I just ended up going to sleep on the couch every night. And, it would be, I'd probably get to bed around 2:30 in the morning. She'd get up at 5:30 to work out. Kids would get up around 7. So I was like just cruising along, working restaurant hours, and unlimited sleep, totally snapping on Sundays, on people, not meaning to. I just was so exhausted, and putting, like a lot of crazy stuff. And unfortunately, it took its toll on our relationship and ultimately became the end for our relationship.
Shit.
And who knows, in the end, would it have worked out either way? I don't know. I mean, thinking back on it now, I don't think so, but I will definitely say that my involvement in the restaurant industry played a huge factor in the degradation of our relationship, for sure.
I guess, yeah. I mean, yes.
Just like my
absolutely.
patience and everything else. I mean, was it always underlying? And I mean, it's hard for me to tell because it was such a long time ago now, but, were those feelings always underlying and I just was pretending to be somebody else? I don't know. But
also, could she have stepped it up and been like, you're awesome. Do you want to go through this time? Like, go through it. Like, we'll figure it out. Do your thing, man. Live your passion, It's sort of, I think she gave up too. Because, shit gets hard in relationships. It's like, and people change and take on stuff that seems crazy. It's like, doesn't mean that the relationship needs to end just because suddenly you want to pursue something. Like, it could be she could have perceived that in a totally different way. She could have been like, dude, it's freaking awesome. Do it. Like, I see you're so lit up. You're so happy. That's fucking awesome. I love seeing you happy. Sure, you're tired. Whatever. Take the day off from the kids. I'll take care of shit. Like, I'll go sleep on the couch. I'm going to sleep on the couch. I don't care what you say.
Right.
You're awesome. How did the night go? Was it amazing? Awesome. Wow, you're wired because you're so happy.
Yeah, right.
It was sort of, there's some of that too. It's a two-way street being in a relationship.
Yeah, especially. And I guess, I don't know. It's interesting too. It is. And then that's the hard part, I think, where I've had so many issues with that because I'm at a stage, I guess perpetually now in my life where I've been focused on my career for such a long period of time and I've made it a point that nothing is going to get in the way of me fulfilling what I need to do. And, you have to... Yeah, due to that, I miss out on other family functions or whatever, and lots of things.
Yeah.
And in other relationships or friendships I've had, because I'm not willing to sacrifice the time that's necessary in my mind to grow my business. Not a lot of people hang out around for that. So maybe perhaps that woman, also it's hard when you get into a relationship when the sort of stipulations or the scenario, the environment was built off of something very different.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it changes drastically. I mean, to her credit, sure, she may have given up, but also like, in the end, you got to be happy.
Yeah.
And maybe she tried to ride it out as long as she could.
Right.
So who really knows? At the end of the day, we're not there now. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it's just an interesting thing that was a catalyst, certainly, the restaurant world. And it is interesting how at the end, you're absolutely right. It becomes, all right, wow, I just got through a service. Staff drinks? What do you guys want? What do you want?
Yeah.
Immediately you get that toxin, that feel-good vibe into your system right away, because it helps the pain. But also, that's just it's a lot of stuff, beer or whatever you're drinking, it's got a lot of sugar in there.
Yeah.
Or you have a coffee throughout service at 9 o'clock at night.
A lot of it's that.
Yeah,
Like
and
I
then
see
you're up.
guys chugging sodas and stuff.
Totally, dude. Yeah.
And like I would be starving, and I would just hammer like whatever was desserts were left over.
Totally.
Yeah,
Butter, fat, sugar, all those things are like energy
so
bombs.
wound up.
Yeah, right.
So it's not like at the end of the service I'm like, I could use some peppermint tea.
Right. That's interesting. Yeah,
But,
and the abuse, like the nutrition as a chef too. I mean, so many hours through my day, I would go over. Shit, man, even on site right now when we make staff meal, I almost never eat staff meal.
Yeah.
It's like
me
I just
too.
boom, 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 on
In
the
that
go.
moment, it's like, nah, I'm not hungry at all in that moment. It's like, it's go time at that time. You don't stop and like shove a bunch of food in your face.
Yeah, I've never been like that ever since I've been in the food industry.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll try food to see how
Yeah,
the components are going together and things like that, but I don't take a moment to sit down and eat because I don't know what it is. It's a sense of guilt or something that I'm not working. And I could be
know.
getting something else done.
I don't know. That's a good question, man. And maybe that's us not taking care of ourselves. Maybe a mental health tip is one that I'm not always great at following, but I do sometimes, and it's pretty nice. Mental health tip: take breaks, stop.
Yeah.
Step outside of the kitchen for a minute. At least go outside. Grab a snack. Eat something at staff meal, or if there is staff meal at your place, sit and actually eat that meal.
Yeah, because it's also a valuable time to bond with your team as well. I mean, that's why I love travel events with Heirloom Fire so much, is that, we're always going. We're always on the clock, where the clock is the master. You're always right on it. What is it? You need more? Oh. The clock is the master, so you're always working. And, yeah, of course. And, we would go on these travel trips. We're driving in a car together, having a good old time. And that's the opportunity to really get to know people.
Yeah.
And have fun. I mean, that's important. But I don't know, man. I mean, for me, my mind is so incredibly stubborn, challenging, and often self-destructive in ways. Like, even when I should be, it's like, I don't know. I just had this realization the other day, as screwed up as this is. It's like certain times when I'm really tired, or sometimes I know I should be doing something. Some days I can have these amazing days where I make lists. And I'm like, okay, perfect. Got all this stuff in the list. Boom, boom, boom. Keep crossing off. It feels great. And then there's some days where it's like I create these lists, and this inner child, like this stubborn bastard, is like, yeah, whatever, mom, or yeah, whatever, dad. It's like this punk-ass dishwasher sort of comes out, or just this punk-ass kid, where it's like, yeah, I don't want to do that, so I'm not going to, just to spite you. That's the kind of shit that goes on inside of my head. And I'm like, dude, what the hell is wrong? Like, why? And it's like, I'll have some good days, but sometimes it feels as though there's more crazy days like that, And that's the thing where I think it's really, really important in life to, I hear certain people that talk about their, when they do things, it feeds their soul. Like for me, I sort of liken that to being, introvert or an extrovert, kind of on a simple point. So an introvert is somebody that enjoys small talks like this or small gatherings. An extrovert is somebody that gets energy from large crowds of people, loves going to parties, loves going to the city or whatever. When I'm engaged in large gatherings like that, first off, there's this anxiety that goes there because, man, I can talk about food all day long. This is like my habitat.
Yeah.
Talk about fire-based cooking, food science, just local food, plants. Yeah. I love all that stuff. Take me out of that and start talking about the Kardashians or what's going on in the news, really. Like, it starts to become really, I think this happens to a lot of people. You take them out of their element, they get uncomfortable. I don't thrive in those situations, and I actually find them to be very taxing. I feel like it's a well, and it's like, you can easily drain that whole thing. So you have to find things in between that. Even if your job doesn't feed you like that, you have to find other things that feed you as well.
Yeah, man. And I've appreciated you saying that before. Like, I've heard you say to me, like, all right, man, you've gone beyond your limit. You're taking on too much. Or you're saying, this is like, you've said this, you've repeated back to me what I've said to you at times, where you said, okay, you're saying that you've reached your limits and that you need to cut down on the amount of stuff that you're doing. And okay, that might be true. And maybe that is actually true. But have you ever considered that some of these things, these extra things that you're taking on, this podcast, for instance, is feeding your soul in a way that actually charges you up? So sure. And it just has made me think a lot, man. Like, this kind of thing, doing this, I'm going to be tired tomorrow because I've already had a really long day and I have an early morning. But I'm going to have that feeling that I get after every Tuesday when we do this, where I'm like, I feel happy. I've got a smile on my face. Sure, I'm a little spacey, but I'm going to perform just as well. It's going to be fine because I'm like, I got fueled by doing this. Yeah. So what feeds your soul that makes it worth pushing and doing hard things?
Isn't that that's sort of, I liken that to the question of what do you want to do for the rest of your life? Like, what do you want to do for a job? That's really hard to find for some people because, especially too, when I think, I've been saying with the COVID stuff for my own mental health is that sometimes I feel like I'm caught in a loop. I get up because, truth be told, just a little bit of a rundown here. For my business, it is not a business that runs retail or anything like that. It's a very difficult time because in order to make the business function, we have to cut basically all expenditures as much as we can. So that means running on a skeleton crew. Yep. And, with that, it's like, I have one other person that works with me, but it's ordering food, it's answering emails, it's prepping all the food for events, it's going and doing the events, it's doing all the dishes. So it's kind of crazy. So being in this loop, I sort of feel like it's this constant thing, and it's very easy to keep living in that loop, and you sort of lose sight of anything that could be potentially an aspect that feeds you, because all these things have to get done. And sometimes, when you don't have the right amount of people, that's the problem too. When at least the struggles that I'm going through is when you start a business and you evolve the business, you grow it. Ultimately that's the idea, that's the dream. But then when you get to a stage when you grow a business to the point where, when you grow, you have to bring other people on or you have to fold in different elements to actually make it function, because I'm never going to take a team member and grind them to a pulp. But now, we're in this stage of the business where the business can't afford taking on extra people or whatever. So it starts to put you through a bit of a challenging state.
Hard to feel. It's like, no wonder you'd be rebelling against a checklist, because probably on the checklist is a bunch of loop shit.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It's like none of that is at all fun or like feeding you.
Right, and that's the part that I struggle with is like, oh my gosh. For me, it's always like I think, well, I can't really afford to sit here and do nothing because I have a bunch of stuff, and if I don't get some of that off the list, I will then become buried by all the shit on my list.
Yeah.
But at the same time, why do I want to get going to put myself? It's like putting your hand in a hot pan,
Yeah.
or just because some of the stuff can be so mundane or so something that you're so not interested in.
Yeah.
For me, I'm a person that has to have constant inspiration, and I'm like the thinker. Like that's what gives me passion and creativity. And I'm also a firm believer in where is your time best spent. And it's amazing how much time doing dishes takes up, right? But it is an essential thing that has to get done for sanitation purposes, of course. But if you're not careful and when you're exhausted, that's what it comes into. Is when you're exhausted, it's real easy to that little dark voice gets going in your head, and it starts to chew at yourself. It becomes your own worst enemy. When you're like, when you got a lot of rest to everything else, you can fight those demons off a little bit. So
man.
But that's the part, is like it's hard to find the feeding part, is what the point what I was getting at. Like when you have little time.
Totally.
You need it.
And I just imagine, if anybody out there is listening who's a cook who's been laid off, or even a cook or a chef who's still been working through this whole thing, but dealing with the mundanity, the drudgery of new protocols to stay safe during COVID times. Like, you're getting buried in this like functionality, this like drudgery, totally no fun, wearing gloves and masks, hygienic, sterile crap.
Sterile.
And trying to...
Wow, I've never heard that word before. What does that mean?
Man, sterile environment.
Sterile.
It's like sterile, It's like
so it's
so
but it's
clean.
like ultra sterile.
It's like so clean and so focused on being clean that there's nothing left. There's no passion. There's no room for that.
Not only is there no bacteria, but there's also you've cleaned all the passion.
Yeah.
Damn.
Totally.
That is sterile.
Yeah.
Shit.
Sterile, bro.
Right.
So and imagine, that if you are fueled out there, if there's anybody out there, you're fueled by your passion for cooking, for creating, for making beautiful stuff, and it's totally being stifled right now, you might not be in a good headspace. If you are the owner of a restaurant right now who day to day is wondering if you're going to be able to open your doors tomorrow morning, if you're going to make it past this day because you've established that you need to do this many takeout orders. By the way, takeout orders destroy your freaking soul because you might have like a fried, like a fried squash blossom or something right now.
Squash blossom.
And that shit is sitting in a box, and by the time it's getting to your guest or your customer, that shit is cold, lukewarm, soggy, not good, and that you're never going to be able to make anything look as pretty as it could on your locally like commissioned and crafted plate. But instead you're shoving it in a brown compostable box with to-go utensils packed with a napkin and a salt and pepper packet in the thing. You're not feeling good. Talk about mental health. Your mental health is not good. Right. My mental health is not good. I could tell some stories about stuff I've been going through too. And it's hard. I'm feeling that. I can feel the collective anxiety, pain, depression.
The unknown, too.
Of the unknown right now. It's a really hard time. So, maybe coming in for a landing, man. What do you think? What do you think about coming in for a landing right now? Is there anything else you want to talk about first? I was thinking about, getting let's spin this around now. Let's get a little inspired. Let's do some takeaway, some positive takeaway, because I think that's why we've gotten so close in these months, is to help each other, to support each other during really difficult time. So how can we support those listening to us right now with some takeaways during this difficult time?
Yeah, I think for the folks, we've touched on this in a different podcast, but for the folks that are in the food industry, I think the other hard part too is to think about when you're going in and going through this whole protocol stuff. There's a lot of people out there that also are, they have the unemployment benefits are really great, and it's very challenging.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. I'm happy you're talking about this.
Yeah, to put yourself, to justify coming into work when also, I mean, some of those benefits are so tasty that it's like, damn, like some people are making a lot of money,
like more than they were making when they were working. In some cases.
Yeah. And also I heard on NPR, I think it was last week, there's also like a ridiculous amount of unemployment fraud that's happening also.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
And that shit, they'll catch it up because the government, if the one thing they're really, really good at is getting their money.
Yeah, they'll find that money.
And it might take a couple of years, it might take 6 months. They're going to get it.
They're going to get it.
But so, yeah, I mean, the point is, like, I think during these times is passion. If you feel like something's beaten out of you, and you do hear a lot of people that go out of business. The thing that I'm really curious about is what are the folks like? How do they knuckle down? They double down and decide to evolve or something like that. Or some people are just exhausted. Mm-hmm. They're just absolutely exhausted.
Yeah, maybe they wanted to go out anyway. There are a lot of people I know, restaurant owners, who live with that conflicted heart.
Yeah.
I'll just say this real quick. I don't want to throw you off your train.
That's fine.
Of like, you definitely want the business to succeed, but also it's so stressful and so intense that you just want it to be over, Yeah. And so it's like flirting with that perspective of like, ooh, maybe this is the time when this is just going to end. And like, maybe I can just fucking end this and figure out what's next for me.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, it's fine. I think another big part, I know there's certainly people out there that have thought about this, and I will say that I'm sure some of you are also thinking about wanting to shut things down, but you have a lot of people's money, maybe investors, family, whatever.
Oh my God, that pressure.
Yeah, that where you feel like there's nothing you can do and you can't get rid of it or whatever, or you can't close down because of that fact, or could be some sense of pride. You may be viewed as a failure or something, and if you're not careful, those thoughts can lead you to a position of, what's the other route? I can't shut it down and live with the guilt. Maybe I'll just be
don't
done.
say it, man. Just don't say it.
Well, that's a reality, man. And some people will, do think about that, and it is a reality for a lot of people in the food industry, unfortunately.
I was looking up last night. I didn't see any like pressure-related suicides, any markable ones, like amongst any of the mainstream big chefs. None of it has been covered in mainstream media anyway.
Well, sure. So even if it's not mainstream head chefs, it could be somebody in the middle of a diner in Ohio, or something like that. And still, that's really challenging. The end of the day is that's not worth it. As easy as that sounds, to end everything, to take that route out because you can't see any light. So the restaurant's not working. You have investors you can't pay back. Is it worth giving everything up? Like, I think what you really need to think about is yourself. What are you going to do? If you get to that stage, you need to heal yourself. There's a lot of healing that you need to do. And that's something that has to be taken seriously. So if you can't get back to your investors, or for whatever reason that you're feeling that way, that's all temporary. And those are conversations, and those are the things down the road that you might have to worry about. But nothing is more important than your own health.
Yeah,
and
man.
If you need to have a crisis moment, call your doctor and tell them that you're having these thoughts. In this country, mental health is not taken as seriously as it needs to be. Speaking from my own experience, when I've had moments where I really need to speak to somebody, it's the very first time I reached out to a doctor, they told me it would take me about 5 months to get into a facility to talk to somebody.
Wrong
so they
doctor.
could have an assessment. And I was like, 5 months, really? That's a lot. And, thankfully I wasn't at a stage in my life where I felt like, it was do or die time. But if I was, that's scary as hell. So,
I know
obviously
they're-
the suicide prevention line,
Yeah. that's what I
look
was
that
gonna
up.
say.
I mean, look up stuff online
Yeah.
about like why you should save your life. There's a lot of people out there that, care deeply about you more than you know, even if people don't talk to you about it, if they don't tell you about it. There's a lot of people that you mean everything to. You mean a lot to, and those are important people that rely on you.
Yeah.
And I know there are some people out there that kind of like that idea of, well, if I died, who would come to my funeral? Instead of thinking about it like that, reach out to those people. Would you wonder if that person would show up to your funeral? Reach out to them. Tell them you're thinking about them. Reach out to everybody you know and tell them you love them. Whatever issues, whatever grievances you have, family, friends, past employees, employers, let them know. Just bury the hatchet. Life is too short to be unhappy in that way. And your mental health, you have to do. It's not selfish. Like
It's
the word
not selfish.
the word selfish has gotten such a bad rap.
Yeah.
But it's so important to take care of yourself, and sometimes that can come off as selfish.
Or weak.
Yeah, weak. No one is going to understand how to take care of yourself better than you. And
Yeah.
sometimes you just need to silence all the noise, get away from everything, take a break, a mental health break.
Yeah.
So,
Or reach out. Reach out.
yeah,
If you
reach
need
out
to
to
do
people.
that.
Yeah,
reach
your
out.
friends. Yeah, and there's people out there that are there for you.
Yeah.
Do whatever you have to do, but don't take the darker way out, because those thoughts are temporary. Some days are really, really bad. And I know that you've gone through a lot of those days where they're really, really bad, and it seems like it's insurmountable. The next day or maybe the day after, you feel like, oh my God, I can't believe I even got to there.
Yeah.
So understand that when you're in those darkest hours, when you are in that pit, it is temporary. I know that it seems it seems like it's never going to end, but it will.
Yeah. It could even end in like 10 minutes.
Yeah, so take a breath. Don't do anything stupid, because you're better than that, okay? And there's a lot of people that love you, and you have a lot of love to give. So hang tough. That would be my takeaway, I think, in those darkest hours. Just stay here.
Yeah, I think that's awesome, man. I think if you are fortunate enough to not be in that crisis kind of state, but you're definitely feeling the grind, the constant weight of Corona on your back, and if you're not working, maybe you're actually getting bennies, and you're getting supported in that way. Look at other interests. Explore things that you have always been interested in, but have been too busy working 50, 60 hours a week in kitchens to actually expand on. Take that time. Maybe it's that you like gardening.
Yeah.
Maybe it's that you want to learn what it's like to plant some tomatoes in a bucket and chuck them in your backyard. Like, you can do that now. You have some time to explore that stuff. Maybe there's some book you always wanted to catch up on. Maybe there's some recipes that you want to explore or develop.
Yeah.
There's so much stuff to do. There's sort of like a world now to spend some time to explore, to keep your mind occupied and to feel fulfilled in other ways. You might discover that there are other things that fulfill you than just cooking and working and being focused on that. That focus, that drive is addictive, and I'm hooked on it. Absolutely. I am hooked on the intensity, the focus, the adrenaline, the world dissolving and all the uncertainties of the world just disappearing as soon as I step into a kitchen. I love that. I love having something hard to focus on, goals to attain, and to see them get achieved each time and to have success. It's very powerful. It's very addictive.
Yeah.
But there are other things in life that you could get addicted to that would feed your soul and feed your mind in ways that you might not even know yet and that you haven't had time to explore yet.
Yeah, and you might also get yourself into a situation where maybe it's not a great job, maybe the ethics or whatever. There could be something that you really don't like there, and if you're not careful, you can drain the well of inspiration and passion. And it's you got to get out of that situation.
Yeah.
There's no reason to stay in that situation, because if you're not feeling good about it, like the moment it's something I've tried to tell all my friends, the moment you feel as though you start to think about, well, maybe I need to start looking for the job, then it's time. That's
Yeah.
it. The moment you start thinking, because all that's going to do is going to gnaw at your brain.
Yeah.
You got to get out of the situations. And also, if you feel that's the case, try to start squirreling away some money. I mean, one of the best things I ever did in my life was when I was talking about that relationship
Yeah,
I
you're
was
good
in.
with money, dude.
Well, I was trained by an insane mother who made me made me feel guilty about even just buying a pair of socks that I needed. So thankful to her for that. But, I was very thankful at that moment in time when I left, when I had got out of that long-term relationship I was talking about earlier, and I need to clear my head. I went and worked in another restaurant immediately after, and my head wasn't there. I was too screwed up emotionally, and I wasn't able to perform to the best of my abilities. And I had to leave because I knew I wasn't my heart wasn't in it like it needed to be for that kitchen. And to the chef's credit, he was busting hard. He wanted to create great things. I was his sous chef, and I just wasn't. I mean, if I was in there in a different capacity, a different mindset, we could have done really great things. He still did really great things, but I just couldn't be the person that he needed me to be.
Yeah.
So I had to give my notice, but I squirreled away enough money, and I booked a trip to Italy for 2 weeks. I went out there, and
Awesome.
I came back, and that was really challenging as well. But just putting myself in this crazy ass situation. I don't speak Italian or anything like that, and just every time I started to feel really like this crazy sense of anxiety, I kept reminding myself, dude, you're on the other side of the world in a country that you don't know anything about. You don't speak the language, and you're surviving. You are alive. It's a big deal. And then I was able to come back and I think basically afford myself like 2 months off of work and just, spent my money very, very modestly and did a lot of work on myself too.
That's awesome.
So if
And I remember then you came back stronger than ever in
Yeah.
a new endeavor, and you really hung in for a long
Yeah.
time in that endeavor.
Yeah.
And then it propelled you into where you are now.
Yeah, when also, when I left that other place, I went and worked at a farm for a season. Now, that sense of management, I didn't have that sense of management. I didn't have to. I mean, sometimes when you're in a restaurant, dude, restaurant life is hard. We all know that. The ticket machine going off, you constantly having to fire one ticket and then kind of go back and do all this other stuff all at the same time, multitasking.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's healthy to get out of that environment and get yourself into a position where it's physical labor, working at a farm.
Yeah.
Someone just gives you your marching orders. You go out, and your mind is allowed to just be.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about
Oh, it
all
feels
this
so
stuff
good.
that's happening. It literally feels like you're unclenching your fist
Man.
after just holding it up, balled up for weeks,
Yeah.
years even. So it feels so good, and you have to do that because
Yeah.
stressful situations like that can kill. So get out if you can afford to. But even if you can't, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, it's also healthy to get out of the restaurant industry for a little bit and go work some other places. Work a couple part-time jobs some other place. Maybe it's stocking shelves. Maybe it's something. But just get away from it. If you're feeling burnt out, get away from the food industry. It's not the only thing you know how to do.
Yeah.
Get away, recharge. And if you love it, you'll come back to it. I can promise you. If there's something that drew you to it, your passions, you're always going to go back to your passions.
Can't
Don't
escape.
be afraid. But
Always
you got to
go back.
heal. You got to heal. You got to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And get re-inspired, because that's what this life is. I mean, I think the ones that succeed in this industry are artists or something, like so many people choose different aspects, whether it's a radio announcer, an actual musician, or an actual artist, a painter or something like that. They're all artists that choose different mediums. I mean, for me, I'm an artist, but I choose food as my palette to work through, and something that you're passionate about. I mean, it's the way to be.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Totally.
Yeah.
Enjoy your life.
You got to enjoy life.
Every aspect of it.
Yes.
If you find that you're getting burnt on the kitchen, it's probably because you're awesome and you've been focusing really hard on it, because you're good at it, you're excelling at it, you're getting somewhere with it, you feel like you found your place. That's all very good. Step outside of it for a second, get some perspective, explore something else. Your life is more than just that.
Yeah.
If you mess up a plate, if you're exhausted and you have a rough night, it's not the end of the world. And if you think that it is, you need to get outside, bro. Like, you need to get outside and explore some other stuff.
Yeah, you can't drive a car 200 miles an hour without bringing it into the shop every once in a while.
Yeah,
so you
I
have
like that
to.
old analogy.
Yeah, you
The
have
old
to.
James analogy right there.
Yeah, you got to take care of yourself, plain and simple. Take care of yourself, whether it's taking time away from your partner, your romantic relationship, your friends, your family. I mean, if holidays are a lot for you, take a break.
Go out like Dennis Rodman. It's like that documentary right now on the Bulls is resonating with like everybody. And there's that story of how, Coach,
Phil Jackson.
Yeah, good old Coach Phil Jackson. Rodman was tweaking out, man. He was going through a lot. He was under a lot of pressure. He was kind of starting to crack. He needed to get out of Dodge fast. And he's like, I want to go to Las Vegas. And Phil Jackson was like, go. And he went and he freaking raged.
He didn't probably sleep at all.
Probably didn't. Yeah. And he came back. He had to get dragged back, actually, by MJ. Right?
Yep, that's right.
As the story goes, anyway.
Yeah.
And he came back, and he was good after that.
Yep.
It's like, I'm not condoning, doing anything too destructive or doing anything unsafe, obviously.
Yeah, but you know yourself. I mean,
you do know yourself.
If you, just take care of yourself. If you need to unwind, you need to go. If you're an extrovert, you need to party or whatever. Everything in moderation, obviously.
Yeah.
Don't OD or whatever.
Yeah, I did want to say.
Have a good time.
Yeah.
What?
I did want to say, if you need to take the first step to learn yourself, which is like often I struggle with what my limits are, and I'm always pushing and I go too far often.
Yeah.
And there are obligations that I make that I can't fulfill, and people get hurt in that process because I've let somebody down because I overextend myself. That sometimes happens. Right. I lose my focus at something that I should be focusing on, like my team or in a kitchen or something. So suddenly they don't have what they need. They're not getting support from me in various ways, so that they end up in a situation that's stressful for them because I'm not focused on making sure that they're being taken care of and that they're being provided for.
Yeah, yeah.
So the first step might be to learn about yourself. Take a moment, take time to think about it. Like, what do I need? What is good for me? What would be good for me to do right now? What am I interested in? Take time to just like do nothing, unscheduled time,
right,
and explore yourself.
Right.
That sounded a little bit dirty. I didn't mean it like that.
Well, again, whatever you need to do to take care of yourself. If you need to explore, put the hard hat on with the
hard hat.
Yeah, the lantern and
the lantern.
Get into the cave. Go deep.
Get into the cave.
Yeah, figure out whatever you need to do. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to look at that. It's also like how your actions can. It was a metaphor. Please don't look too deep into
the
it.
Cave.
Into it. Yes.
Into the
might not
dark
come out.
hole.
Yeah. So, wake up. Is that Hennessy?
Sorry, what?
Yeah.
Continue, please. Yeah, that was going to be a profound point, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, it's just that's it. I mean, where you are, look at those kinds of things. Look at yourself, but also look at like. Without beating yourself up too much, how are your actions affecting someone else?
Yeah.
And how do you feel about that? Does it make you feel indifferent? Does it make you feel upset? If it makes you feel upset, how can you be a better person? I'm an advocate, a huge fan of journaling. I like a mix of, as I've mentioned before, like a voice memo that I will then put away into a special folder in an email that I can revisit. It helps me think about down the road what sort of mind state I was in. But I also enjoy the tactile version of actually just physically journaling as well, because I think that engages different parts of the brain. It's one thing to talk, it's another thing to journal. And I don't even know if I've ever even read any of the journals that I had journaled in.
Yeah.
Because I just think it's almost as a therapy in that moment to
get
all that out.
Yeah, there are some perspectives or some like teachings that are about writing and then never looking at it. Sometimes you like write it all, don't look back at it, because it's like if you got to get something out, get it out. Don't get it back into you after by reading it. and then there'll be like ceremonies over burning
Yeah.
what you've written. you
Right,
know?
and I wonder about that stuff. It's like, would that? I mean, I guess it's really about what I don't really want to call it theater, but the sort of build up to burning this thing to cleanse it, and whatever the ceremony is.
Yeah.
Is it like? I don't know. I've never done it, so I can't actually say if it'd make me feel good. Maybe it might make me feel like it's the best thing in the world. I don't know. But it does feel good to get it out on paper.
Yeah.
Like for a long time, I just had actually stopped journaling altogether, like through writing stuff down and
You were
only
typing.
just using, like the Notes app. And I found that to actually not help me because I think there's a certain thing about drawing the letters
Yeah.
that actually engages my brain in a much more impactful way.
Yeah.
It's like muscle memory, where if you're just typing keys, everything is so fast. It's not always best.
Yeah.
Maybe good for like quick reminders and stuff like that. I mean, that's why I always found like the Apple Watch was completely useless for me.
Oh yeah, and you don't have it on.
Well, I haven't worn it in some time. I usually wear just a regular watch.
Oh right.
Just because time is. I mean, oh my God, when I'm on site and I don't have a watch, I feel completely naked. I mean, I even hate to ask, like, what time is it? What do we have to do? It just because it throws me for a loop.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyhow, yeah. So as you can tell, we barely scratched the surface on this because, we have stories we've shared with one another. We've gone deep about about some really scary shit in our lives.
Maybe we'll have a part 2 at some point down the road.
Yeah.
We can check back in.
Yeah, and since, if we're being completely, full and candid here too, this is our fifth official podcast.
Yeah.
We haven't launched any. As of right now, we haven't launched it to the public yet. I'm really interested at some point of doing like a mailbag episode where we cast questions out.
Yeah, that's cool. I was thinking about doing that for this episode too. So maybe in the second one.
Yeah, I think once we go live and start sharing stuff,
Yeah.
or even before then, we could get some questions from people or whatever and just answer them, because there's stuff. With between you and I, like during this time, I know we've talked about it a lot. The voice memos we share with each other, because there's something about human connection during this time that's been lost pretty significantly. And, we're both busy, so it's not like I can call you up while you're at work and we can just be on the phone like, hey, baby, how you doing, or whatever. You know, we can't talk like that.
Yeah.
But we can capture our thoughts and just send them off.
Yeah.
While you're working, you could be listening to my thoughts or vice versa. And we can both, and I also think because at the end of the day, we're all so similar. We all share so many different challenges in life. When I've read a lot of these developmental books, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is actually a thing. There's other people, and I think there's strength in that.
Yeah.
When you see that other people are struggling with the same things, and they've come up with solutions, it's enlightening, and it kind of takes weight off your shoulders.
Yeah, that's a great takeaway too, I think.
Yeah.
Is get out there and read inspirational stuff, or find somebody who you resonate with, who's online, who's got a podcast, who has a book that you've heard. Look for that stuff.
Absolutely. That podcasts are amazing. That's why we decided to do this, because they've helped me so much.
Yeah.
And our goal here is to be able to help you guys too. And that would be the great thing about a mailbag episode, is that because we've both helped each other so much with different problems or challenges in our lives, we would love to hear challenges, or even, recipe ideas or thoughts or anything.
Just
really.
connection.
Yeah,
just connection.
And because at the end of
During
the day,
this isolated, weird time, man, just connect.
But even when I've gone, it's not that I've completely traveled the world, but when I've gone different places, across the ocean, like England or whatever, and there's so much in this hospitality industry. It's a big community.
Yeah.
And the further the more we can stay connected, which isn't even that hard to do this day and age, the better.
Yeah.
And we can all share our troubles, our concerns, how to handle things. So it's a very exciting thing. So I definitely think we should pick this up on a part 2.
Yeah, totally.
Sure.
Agreed, man. Let's do that. And in the meantime, how can folks get in touch with us?
Yeah, so in the meantime, please, talking about a mailbag episode, questions, concerns, comments, please send it to figurativelyfeasting@gmail.com. On Instagram, Figuratively Feasting is the handle, @figurativelyfeasting. My personal Instagram handles are Chef James Gopp and @heirloomfire.
Mine is Chef Simeon.
Wonderful.
What?
Not
Let's say something else.
No, that's what it is. It's just Chef Simeon.
Yeah, it's at Chef Simeon.
Wow, nice. I like that. You're lucky that was not taken.
I know, I was.
So awesome. So get in contact with us. Give us a follow. See what we're doing. We always have interesting little projects happening. And until the next time.
We love you, man. We love you guys. Stay strong. Stay up.
Yeah, and be good to yourself.
Yeah.
Be good. You take the time you need. Okay? You're a wonderful, wonderful individual, and life is worth living. There are some beautiful days and many more to come. This is just a very odd time. So take care of yourself.
I love that, man.
We'll see you soon.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.